All right, so we got topic 10, lesson 2, where people live and work in Southwest Asia. So people live where there are opportunities to make a good living, and that kind of makes sense for anywhere, right? You have to live somewhere that you can't get a good job. Modern irrigation methods, such as practiced in Israel and Saudi Arabia, have started to allow farming in places that it was too dry to farm before. So that's helped people to be able to move to different places and live in regions that haven't been able to be settled before. Because of that very arid climate in most of the regions, access to water has been a major key issue. And on top of just the access to the water, pollution's been a big problem. So pollution has also damaged the quality of the water in a lot of the rivers, such as the Euphrates. They have had new technology over time to try to help clean these things up. And besides pumps that will pump things to other places, some countries in the region started using a technology called desalination, which is basically removing salt water from the seawater, so it's more usable, drinkable. You can use it for irrigation or whatever else. So this technology has enabled population growth over those desert regions. So when they can get the water provided to them in different places, it's easier for them to live in other places that are too dry to live normally. The discovery of oil in Saudi Arabia in the early 1900s has led to gradual development of a very vast oil industry over the course of the 1900s. During the mid-1900s, the government gradually nationalized the oil industry, which means they took ownership of it. And oil has helped the region prosper, but it also poses a risk. So because water supplies are so limited in the region, the threat of pollution from the oil industry is a big challenge for them. So it's hard to that balance between making money from the oil industry and keeping the water and the area clean. The economies of Southwest Asia vary, though, in many different ways. So several countries are dominated by that oil industry. But others have no oil deposits, so that's not really helpful to them. So some are very wealthy, some are very poor, but all take part in that global economy. So some have more to gain or to provide for than others. A lack of investment in human capital through education is a big challenge, though. They're not putting money back into their education system for many countries in the region. So many workers in the region lack basic skills needed for jobs, that have at least a decent high wage. Literacy rates are so low that causes another issue for their economies. The rates definitely still vary differently from men to women. So as a result of these things, the standard of living in most of these countries are way lower than their neighboring countries of Europe and even still somewhat high. They're much lower in Europe, but parts of Africa that we talked about being so low, they're not quite as low as that. So they're kind of in between that European way of life and Africa, being in the poverty. Israel, though, has a high standard of living, partly because it invests greatly in education. So remember, the more that a country invests in education, they typically have a better infrastructure, better workers, and a better overall society. All right, that's it for lesson 2.